Imagine a file cabinet locked away in a military base. Inside, thousands of reports from pilots, soldiers, scientists, and ordinary citizens. Reports of strange craft defying the laws of physics, lights that dance across the night sky, radar contacts that vanish into thin air. For nearly 2 decades, the United States Air Force investigated these mysteries under a single code name: Project Blue Book. Was it a genuine search for answers, or the greatest government cover-up of the century? Tonight, we open the files, follow the evidence, and uncover the truth about America's most secretive UFO investigation. Origins of Project Blue Book in the early 1950s. The United States Air Force launched what would become one of the most famous UFO investigations in history, Project Blue Book. Officially established in 1952, it followed 2 earlier projects, Project Sign, 1947, and Project Grudge, 1949, which had been tasked with assessing the growing number of reports about strange objects in the sky. The Air Force's goal was clear: investigate these sightings and determine whether they posed a threat to national security. This was no small task. Reports came from military pilots, radar operators, and civilians alike, each describing mysterious craft performing maneuvers that seemed beyond the capabilities of known technology. While many in the military approached the project with a serious scientific mindset, others were skeptical from the start. Nevertheless, Project Blue Book would become the largest and most sustained official investigation into UFOs in American history. Running for nearly 2 decades, its creation marked a turning point, signaling that the U.S. government was willing to devote time, personnel, and resources to the UFO mystery, even if its ultimate conclusions would leave many feeling that the truth was still hidden behind locked doors. Context: the UFO craze of the 1940s-50s. The roots of Project Blue Book lay in the unprecedented wave of UFO sightings that swept across America after World War II. The most famous early case was the 1947 Roswell incident, in which a supposed flying saucer allegedly crashed in New Mexico. That same year, its pilot Kenneth Arnold's sighting of 9 shiny discs over Mount Rainier introduced the term flying saucer into the public lexicon. These reports came at a time of great anxiety. The Cold War had begun, and fears of advanced Soviet aircraft spying on or threatening the United States were high. Radar technology, still relatively new, often picked up strange blips that operators couldn't immediately explain. Meanwhile, science fiction stories about alien visitors filled magazines, radio programs, and movie screens, stoking the imagination of the public. Sightings poured in from across the country. Strange lights darting across the night sky, glowing discs hovering in the distance, and objects that moved at impossible speeds. It became clear to the military and intelligence agencies that they could not simply ignore the phenomenon. This cultural, political, and technological backdrop created the perfect storm for a formal investigation, and thus, Project Blue Book was born. The mission and goals. Project Blue Book's mission was threefold: to collect and analyze UFO, citing reports from both military and civilian sources, to determine whether these unidentified objects posed a threat to U.S. national security, and to assess whether they might be of extraterrestrial origin. The Air Force wanted to centralize the process. Rather than letting local bases or individual officers handle reports, Blue Book would compile all cases into one database for detailed examination. Investigators looked into every report, often interviewing witnesses, reviewing radar data, and even conducting site visits. The question wasn't just about little green men. Military was equally, if not more, concerned about the possibility that these sightings were advanced aircraft from the Soviet Union or another foreign power. Each case was classified into categories: identified, explained by natural or man-made causes, or unidentified. Over time, the focus shifted more toward explaining cases away. But in the early years, there was a genuine effort to treat the phenomenon as something worthy of serious investigation. Project Blue Book was essentially the government's way of saying, "We're watching the skies, and we want answers." Early investigations. In its initial years, Project Blue Book took the investigation of UFOs seriously. Teams of Air Force officers and scientists traveled to the sites of major sightings, examined physical evidence, and gathered sworn statements from credible witnesses, including police officers, pilots, and military personnel. Many of these cases were quickly resolved, For example, some UFOs turned out to be weather balloons, high-altitude aircraft, or even bright planets like Venus, misidentified by observers. Atmospheric phenomena such as temperature inversions or reflections also accounted for a surprising number of reports. However, there was a subset of cases that defied easy explanation. These included radar readings showing high-speed objects with abrupt course changes and visual sightings of craft that seemed to disappear in an instant. The Air Force kept a close eye on these unexplained incidents, aware that even if they weren't extraterrestrial, they might represent advanced technology from an adversary. This mix of solved and unsolved cases set the tone for Blue Book's work. The project was both a debunking machine and a mystery archive, collecting stories that, to this day, intrigue UFO researchers and conspiracy theorists alike. The Robertson Panel, 1953. In 1953, as public interest in UFOs continued to rise, the CIA convened the Robertson Panel, a group of scientists tasked with reviewing the evidence gathered so far. Their conclusion was clear. UFOs did not represent a direct threat to U.S. security, however. They warned that public fascination with the subject could be dangerous. Large-scale UFO hysteria might clog communication channels with false alarms, making it harder for the military to detect real threats. As a result, the panel recommended a policy of debunking UFO sightings to reduce public interest. This marked a turning point in Project Blue Book's approach. From then on, there was a noticeable shift toward framing reports as misidentifications or hoaxes, rather than possible signs of unknown technology. The Air Force began to emphasize conventional explanations in press releases, and the language used in case files grew more dismissive. Critics saw this as the beginning of a deliberate cover-up, arguing that the government had decided it was better to ridicule the UFO topic than to admit it was stumped by it. Shift in approach. Following the recommendations of the Robertson Panel, Project Blue Book's tone became noticeably more skeptical. Investigators increasingly labeled sightings as hoaxes, illusions, or misinterpretations, often without extensive on-site investigation. Some cases still received thorough analysis. The emphasis was clearly on finding a mundane explanation as quickly as possible. To many outside observers, this seemed like the Air Force was more interested in calming public fears than in uncovering the truth. The press was given simplified explanations that often glossed over unusual details from witness statements. This shift alienated many UFO researchers, who accused Blue Book of cherry-picking evidence to fit a predetermined narrative. Still, the Air Force maintained that it was fulfilling its mission, identifying and evaluating aerial phenomena, and ensuring there was no threat to national security. Whether this was a sincere conclusion or a calculated public relations move remains a point of debate among historians and UFO enthusiasts. Famous UFO cases investigated. During its 17 years of operation, Project Blue Book examined some of the most famous UFO cases in history. The Lubbock Lights of 1951 involved a formation of glowing lights flying over Texas, witnessed by multiple credible observers, including professors. The Washington, D.C. UFO incident in 1952 saw strange radar contacts and visual sightings over the nation's capital, prompting a temporary scramble of Air Force jets. In 1964, the Lonnie Zamora incident in New Mexico involved a police officer who claimed to see a strange, egg-shaped craft land and take off, leaving behind scorched earth and strange impressions. While some of these cases were eventually explained, others remained stubbornly mysterious, even after thorough investigation. These high-profile incidents brought national attention to Project Blue Book and reinforced the idea that something genuinely strange was happening in America's skies, something the government couldn't fully explain. Statistical findings. Between 1952 and 1969, Project Blue Book investigated a staggering 12,618 UFO reports. The Air Force concluded that the vast majority, over 90%, could be explained by natural or man-made causes such as stars, planets, weather balloons, aircraft, and atmospheric phenomena. However, 701 cases were officially classified as unidentified after thorough investigation. These unexplained cases often involved credible witnesses, corroborating radar data, and physical evidence. While skeptics argue that unidentified does not necessarily mean extraterrestrial, UFO researchers see this as proof that the Air Force encountered phenomena beyond its ability to explain. This statistical record has become a cornerstone of UFO literature, cited both by those who believe in alien visitation and by those who argue that even well-funded, long-term government investigations fail to provide conclusive evidence. Condon Report 1969. By the late 1960s, public and political interest in UFOs had waned, and the Air Force sought an independent review to determine whether Project Blue Book should continue. The University of Colorado, led by physicist Edward Condon, conducted a comprehensive study of UFO reports. The resulting Condon report concluded that further study of UFOs was unlikely to yield any scientific breakthroughs. It recommended that the Air Force end its official UFO investigations. Critics argued that the report downplayed unexplained cases and reflected a predetermined skepticism, but the Air Force embraced its conclusions. This effectively provided the justification to shut down Project Blue Book. Closure of Project Blue Book. In December 1969, the Air Force officially ended Project Blue Book. In its final statement, it declared that there was no evidence UFOs were a threat to national security. No evidence they represented advanced technology beyond current scientific knowledge, and no evidence they were of extraterrestrial origin. All case files were archived and eventually declassified in the 1980s, though some portions were redacted. For many, the closure marked the end of an era of official openness on UFOs. To others, it was simply the beginning of a more secretive phase of government research into the phenomenon. Public reaction and controversy. The end of Project Blue Book did little to calm conspiracy theories. Many UFO enthusiasts and researchers believed the Air Force had deliberately concealed the most compelling evidence. Rumors persisted about secret military facilities like Area 51, where recovered alien craft were supposedly studied. Some former Blue Book personnel later claimed that they had been instructed to downplay or dismiss unexplained cases. The release of declassified files only fueled the debate, as skeptics pointed out inconsistencies and unexplained details in the records. Public distrust in official narratives about UFOs only grew in the years following the project's closure. Legacy. Despite its official end, Project Blue Book left a lasting legacy. Its files remain one of the most extensive archives of UFO sightings ever compiled by a government agency. Historians, journalists, and UFO researchers continue to mine its records for patterns and insights. The project also influenced countless works of fiction, from television shows to films, cementing the UFO phenomenon in popular culture. It showed that, at least for a time, the U.S. government was willing to take UFO reports seriously, even if the conclusions remained disputed. Connection to modern UAP investigations in recent years. Interest in unidentified aerial phenomena has surged again. It's driven by declassified Navy UFO videos and official Pentagon statements. Modern programs like the Advanced Aerospace Threat Identification Program AATIP and the All-Domain Anomaly Resolution Office AAROR are sometimes seen as spiritual successors to Project Blue Book. While the technology for collecting and analyzing data has improved dramatically, the fundamental questions remain the same. What are these objects? Where do they come from? And why are they here? Just as in the Blue Book era, the answers remain elusive, and the mystery endures.